listening to Peak One Sports.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sports Biz with Tony Nix. I am obviously not Tony. Don't worry, you did not click on the wrong video. This is still Sports Biz. I'm filling in for Tony, who has been on vacation for the past week or so, and he's just trying to get caught up on some stuff. And felt that he wouldn't be giving you all the listeners, all the loyal Peak One listeners. He feel like he wouldn't be giving you his best effort and best attention without really being able to prepare for this show. And obviously he missed last week and he didn't want to go 2 weeks in a row. So I'm here. Hopefully y'all can put up with me. This is going to be a little different for me with obviously different background than I'm used to, different intro and outro music. So I'm just trying to get in the mode, trying to match Tony's energy. And bring y'all a really good show. Make sure, if you're not already, subscribe to our YouTube page. Go ahead and comment and hit that notification button so you know when one of our awesome Peak One episodes drops, whether it's Sports Biz like this one, the Sports Page, Bungalow Sports Show, the Bungalow Fight Night, all kinds of great shows we have here on the network. Also, listen to all of the Peak One shows, however you listen to podcasts. Let's give a shout out to some of our sponsors. We have Apogee Grafix. You can see here, nice Apogee Grafix hat. Bringing your vision to new heights. Go to apogeegrafix.com, and also Betalytics. The Betalytics dashboard allows you to quickly identify top graded, best bets, and hottest trends. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter. All the information for those sponsors will be down below in the comment box. Also want to talk about our 100 subscriber challenge. We've reached it. We are now over 100 subscribers on YouTube. And this is the first episode of the Sports Biz since we've reached that milestone. Want to thank everybody. Want to thank Bungalow Sports Show, Cole and Joey, for pushing that as much as they have. They're going to have their own little triathlon going on, so keep a lookout for that, for videos on that. And then the Peak One Sports Network is going to be giving away a package with hats from our sponsors, a Peak One shirt, just a bunch of different merch and decals and all kinds of cool stuff. Just make sure you have to subscribe to our page and have multiple comments on there for us to pick. We're going to pick a random comment. Haven't done it yet, but make sure you have comments down there. Maybe you will get picked and you'll be our lucky winner. This episode of the Sports Biz, we're going to be talking about uniforms, mainly jerseys, and kind of how the economy of jerseys work. Man, that was a really bad description. That sounds really boring. No, I promise you it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about some deep thought, stuff that's going to make you think. Like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even realize that. We're going to get into some fun stuff here in a second, because we all like chaos when it's not really affecting us, when we just get to be outside looking in and be observers of the chaos or train wrecks. And we're going to look at a couple of uniform examples as these train wrecks. So really just right now, just picture the worst uniform. And we're really going to be talking about professional sports mainly. But what are some of the worst uniforms you can think of right now? I'm going to show you a couple of pictures here in a second, and maybe they make those lists. Some that maybe that they're new uniforms, or not new now, but they were, coming out, these new uniforms that we thought were going to hit, and they definitely did not, as well as maybe some uniforms kind of paying homage to the past that just don't hit anymore. We'll talk about all of that. and then talk about where we got to now that we everybody has you just go out and buy a jersey of your favorite player. But first, let's look at some of these really bad uniforms. Here's a couple of the examples I was talking about where you have the old wearing old uniforms and the Philadelphia Eagles. That's just absolutely horrible. Not only because I'm a Cowboys fan, that's just bad. I understand what you're trying to do there, but sometimes uniforms need to stay in the past. Speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, those bumblebee or honeybee uniforms that people like to call them, if that's their official name or not, that's something that should stay in the past as well. I don't know what marketing thought about that. Maybe they sold some of them. I don't know. You have your guilty pleasure movies that you just have to buy that jersey. It's just terrible. And then with the Miami Dolphins, I'm a big fan of alternate uniforms, alternate colors. Usually keeping the same style uniform and just having the alternative colors just swapped around. It didn't work very well for Miami in this instance, at least in my opinion and the opinion of where I got this photograph, because this picture I got all merged together was talking about how bad these uniforms are. And there's that. This is a terrible uniform. I think we think of it much worse because it was shoved down our throats when Jacksonville was just so terrible and they were trying to make Thursday Night Football watchable. It's not, again, with the alternative colors, it's not a bad thought. Like, let's emphasize more gold into this. But gold is a bold color, where it works great as an accent color as much as silver does as well. I don't have a picture of it, but like the Raiders silver jerseys. I don't like those either. But gold, it looks more like a mustard yellow more than gold on the uniforms. And then this picture doesn't do it justice, but it has that faded helmet where in thought, an idea that doesn't sound bad when you're trying to pitch it. Let's have a faded helmet. It goes from black to gold, or maybe it was dark green. I think it was a black helmet. And then those sort of ideas that happen in boardroom meetings and marketing meetings, it doesn't sound terrible. But at some point, this needs to be cut. It shouldn't make it all the way to the field. A lot of people who use their design talents and make alternative uniforms that don't really exist. This is probably a better idea for that. Just so you see what it looks like. Or I know I've had a couple of Dallas Maverick jerseys when I was a kid. One was it was almost like a football style jersey. It had the sleeves, not the sleeve basketball NBA sleeve jersey you're thinking about, which we'll get to in a minute. But no, it was like a football style jersey, but it was Mavericks. It was a Steve Nash jersey. That was a jersey that they didn't wear in the court, obviously, but they made it. And then there's other Mavericks jerseys. I think there was a gold jersey, not the New City Connect. This was back in the day. You can go to team stores, and I'm not saying don't make this Jaguars jersey or don't make this Dolphins jersey. I will say don't make the Pittsburgh jersey. But you can make these jerseys and just have them for merch, for people to buy who just want to prove they're cool fans. Say, hey, look, I have a different jersey that the team doesn't wear. Some of these should never, ever make it to the field or court in instance of this next idea. And I can't even show it for that long. NBA sleeved jerseys. We're just going to get rid of that. So you don't have to look at it. The idea for those, I'm sure they made a little money off of it. I don't know how much it costs to make all these. I think they wore them mostly for Christmas Day for a few years, and that was going to be the thing. And maybe they were going to slowly transition into the NBA wearing these. NBA players wearing these. This was just the new style, maybe. But it obviously bombed. I'm sure some people liked it. I mean, I'm a fan of gimmicky deals when you're talking about uniforms. Why not try them? But sometimes, this experiment went on way too long. I truly believe they thought this was going to be the next thing, in professional basketball. Whether they said it or not, I'm not sure. I know they really just earmarked those uniforms for Christmas Day, but that experiment did not work out. Maybe some people own some. Maybe you own one of those jerseys and you like it. I don't know. Maybe it's the skin tightness of the jersey. It just kind of looks off. But new uniforms. Teams are coming out with new uniforms a lot more often. Obviously, you have City Connect jerseys. I know that's what they're called in baseball, and then in the NBA, they're just the City Edition jerseys. And they have those that they wear throughout the season. But I mean, actually changing and rebranding and having different uniforms as your main uniforms. I'm not sure how often that used to happen. Going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, I know, especially in the NFL with different technologies changing with the helmets. And there are minor changes to uniforms. But I mean, just completely wiping it clean. I feel like it didn't happen very often, maybe every 10 years or so, even longer than that. But now it seems like teams are changing uniforms very often. Maybe more for like a marketing deal. Coming out with a new iPhone every other year or twice a year every year, however often they come out with that. Or I know in general, because I have the iPhone 11, and you can tell like the camera, where those are. The iPhone 12, it's different. The iPhone 13 is different. The iPhone 4, or I'm sorry, this is an iPhone 12. iPhone 13 is different. The iPhone 14 is different. That's the only thing you can tell, but they do that on purpose, because iPhone 12s and 13, they all work the same as long as they're not too old. But people can see, if that's something you care about, is having the newest phone, people will know which iPhone you have because of where the camera is placed. They're changing it every single time, just for the people that have to have the new one and have to show, whatever. I think uniforms are getting like that, where they come out with so many different uniforms now, maybe changing their official uniform every few years, and then you have City Connect, and they're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to, say, oh, we're just doing this for money or whatever. I enjoy it. It's cool to look at different, to watch your team have different uniforms, not just have, when I was growing up, they did have alternative uniforms, but it was mostly like, watching the Mavericks, white uniforms at home, dark blue on the road. And then you'd occasionally get a new, now you don't even know if they're going to wear white at home, a different color at home. They have 3 or 4 different uniforms they work with. And then plus you have your City Connect, you have your throwbacks, you have all kinds of different uniforms now. And if I like them, I'll buy them. I'm not a big component to buying jerseys. They are expensive. I think, I own a Luka jersey, I own a Dirk jersey, I have a couple of Cowboys jerseys, and I have a Rangers jersey. And I want to buy another Rangers jersey, but I know people who just have closets full of jerseys, and when the new one comes out, they have to wear it or buy it so they can wear it. But it's become big money in jersey sales. We know too, talking about that avenue of jerseys and switching uniforms. Putting ads on uniforms. It really started in professional soccer. I know the MLS, but I know Premier League and other leagues around the world do it. I'm not sure how long they've been putting advertisements on their jerseys. The WNBA does it, the G League does it, and now you've seen the NBA's been doing it for a few years. The NHL does it to an extent. I know they put it on their helmets, which is fine. I don't care. Pick a company or an advertiser that's the same color scheme as you, at least so it doesn't stick out. We saw that with MLB jerseys when the Mets had that god-awful patch on the right. It was like red. And I know they fixed that. They still have the patch, but it's blue and orange, or just orange or blue, whatever. And then maybe I know the NFL's talking about it too. But they're selling some of these jerseys in pro shops, or you can buy them with the ads if that's something you want. If you want the authentic look. But yeah, new uniforms. I mean, what brought this up is the Sacramento Kings are unveiling their new uniforms. They have 3 new uniforms, and I have a picture of a couple of them here. I'll show you in a second. They're wearing this upcoming season, and they did put a video out on social media to unveil these uniforms. Their rally cry, I think they're calling it, is "Light the Beam." They use that. It's more like what they said last year when they'd win a game, and then they'd have a purple light beam shoot up out of their arena, the Golden One Center, when they won the game. If you're a Longhorns fan or follow the Longhorns, they'll light the tower orange when they win. It's sort of the same concepts. So, but here are those uniforms right here. These are a couple of them, the black and the white. They had the third one's not completely all purple. It's kind of like a faded from black to purple, but they wanted to emphasize that purple is their accent color. It's like they're white and black are their colors with purple accent. And I'm a big fan of these uniforms. I like these. They're very simple. They're not trying to go over the top like a lot of uniforms do, just to see who can be crazier. Because if you get crazy enough, then even if people are dogging on your uniforms, at least they're talking about it. No publicity is bad publicity. But yeah, they talked about making black the main color scheme, purple as the accent. They utilizing the modernized Kings script on the front. It's kind of hard to see there, but it's all over social media. In fact, I'll put a link in the description box to that video. And yeah, I think these are really, really cool uniforms. And not much different. They kind of went back to what the logo or the Kings script is a little different than, their late 90s to mid 2000s uniforms. But that was basically, it was white and black. I think black might have been their alternative uniforms, with purple being their main one. But these are going to be their 2 main uniforms. Now, when we're talking about uniforms or jerseys in particular being available to the public, that's kind of changed over the last 4 decades in American sports. Really, if you think about it, think about like old baseball games. When you see footage, I mean, not quite back to like the 30s, but maybe like the 60s and 50s and 60s, and you see guys wearing suits sometimes. I mean, I get our clothing has gotten more laid back as we have gone on throughout American history. Guys used to wear suits everywhere anyways. But they would wear that. And then, I mean, even in the 70s and 80s, t-shirts and jeans, a hat, maybe a hat with your team name on it. Wearing team merchandise really didn't become popular until about the 80s, mid 80s. When they started making t-shirts for the public to have. And it's weird to think that seems brilliant now. I mean, why wouldn't you be selling team jerseys? But that just wasn't a thing. Why would you wear a baseball jersey or a basketball jersey or a football jersey if you're not playing the sport? But in the late 80s and early 90s, that's when the jerseys started really coming out and being worn to sporting events, or just really just out in everyday life. I don't really wear jerseys out places anymore. Normally I'll wear them at sporting events, or, if we have a fantasy sports draft, I might go in a Cowboys jersey or whatever. But really it's been made casual more by, in the 90s with Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan was just obviously with his shoes, but just merchandise in general. How many of you can remember the ones who grew up, were born in the 80s or grew up in the 80s and 90s? Did y'all have like a windbreaker, Chicago Bulls windbreaker, Chicago Bulls something, or Jordan jersey? Yeah. Raise my hand. I grew up in Texas. I have no ties to Chicago. I've been to Chicago once in my life. But I had a Chicago Bulls jersey. I had a couple of pairs of Jordans. My brother did. We had Bulls hats and everything. We weren't really even Bulls fans. It's just that's what was available to you back then. I know the 90s, everyone started ramping up. And, living in Dallas, we got a lot of Cowboy stuff too. But that's really where it started taking off. And again, if you're around my age or even older, you know that magazine that would come in the mail in the 90s and early 2000s, East Bay. And we never bought anything. I never bought anything from it. I don't know if my parents would even let me. My brother might have bought something from it, but I like to go through them and just look at the different jerseys. Look at the difference, see if they had alternate colors, just different things. And, I like going through them and looking at shoes, and there was all kinds of cool stuff to look at. But really, it was an untapped market until, really I'll say the last 40 years, but really since Michael Jordan, which is almost, that's not far from 40 years now, 30-something years ago. But just think about it. Jersey sales, it's such a big game that ESPN and, different sports outlets talk and give rankings on jersey sales. Like, that's a thing we talk about because people care that who sold the most jersey. LeBron James has sold the most jerseys probably however often, every month or every week, however often they do rankings for probably the last 10, 15 years. But in pro football and pro baseball, that's $3 to $5 billion industry a year. Obviously, pro football, everybody loves jerseys. Football is king in America. But baseball, too, because buying baseball jerseys is a thing. Buying baseball hats is a thing. The NBA, basketball jerseys weren't much of a thing until later on because it's kind of weird to wear a basketball jersey. Now you can wear a shirt under it, but that wasn't the thinking really at the time. So buying basketball jerseys weren't as common as football and baseball, but that's still now is a $2 billion a year industry. And hockey has just blown up here recently. Now that they're, call them hockey sweaters or whatever, I still call them jerseys, but they're pretty expensive, and you don't typically wear hockey jerseys everywhere. Depending on where you live, because they're so big, they're like a sweater, obviously, but they're long sleeves, and here in Texas, only except for a few months out of the year, you can even wear those. So you really just get those to go to the games, but you see baseball jerseys and football jerseys everywhere. You go out today, I promise you've seen one today, whether you noticed it or not. And then basketball, just as much. Depending on, if your team has a superstar, if you have a LeBron, a Luka, a Giannis, Kevin Durant, if you have those players on your team, but, I bet you this week you've seen a LeBron James jersey, probably, no matter where you live. But yeah, it's just a huge industry. Tell me what you guys think. Do y'all have jerseys? Did y'all own a Michael Jordan jersey? Or Jordans? I know you probably do own Jordans now. Air Jordans, those are bigger industry than jerseys in itself. But yeah, tell me what you think of this episode. Did I do a good job? Did I live up to the expectations that Tony has put on here at Peak One Sports on this show? I hope so. Yeah, just let me know. Comment down below. Share our channel. Share this video. And until next time, guys, see you later.